Okay, we are now live.
Perfect. Thank you. We'll go ahead and call to order the Planning Commission meeting for tonight, which is July 7th, 2020. And thank you for all who are here. As I'm looking across the board, 1, 2, 3, 4, I think we've got everybody. Am I missing any? One? I think we're all here, right? We just have 6 of us still. Hopefully that changes. Before we get started, I do have one thing I need to just read just for anybody who's listening and participating. Due to the increased threat of serious illness and loss of life by the rapid spread of the COVID-19 virus, the chair of the West Jordan Planning Commission has determined that conducting this Planning Commission meeting at City Hall or any other anchor location is likely to contribute to the spread of COVID-19 and would present a substantial risk to the health, safety, and welfare of the city's residents, participants, and observers. Therefore, pursuant to Utah Code 52-4-2074, the Planning Commission hereby declares that the meetings of this public body will be held only electronically until further notice. This determination will expire in 30 days from the date of the chair of the Planning Commission, from the date the chair of the Planning Commission signs the written determination. Okay, with that part out of the way, let's get to the fun part of this. So we have one business item on our agenda tonight, that is to approve the minutes from our previous meeting of June 16th. Any conversation or comments about our last meeting, or a motion?
I'll make a motion.
I heard several. I'll take Commissioner Thomas. Who was the other one?
That was Commissioner England.
That's what I thought. Commissioner England. Okay. Okay, so we have a motion by Commissioner Thomas, seconded by Commissioner England. Any discussion to the motion? All right, seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, perfect. Moving along, our first public hearing for the evening. And I'll just mention this right at the front. If you're here for any one of the specific items, please wait until we open the public hearing portion of this, and then just use your option for at the bottom down there to choose like a reaction, and you can wave your hand at us and we'll make sure we get someone acknowledges you so we can get you in when it's your time. But please make sure you keep your comments to the item that we're specifically talking about. So item number 2 on our agenda is the Oak View Industrial Park subdivision. This is continued from our previous meeting of June 16th at 6835 West New Bingham Highway. We're discussing preliminary subdivision plat and an M1 zone. Gardner Company, Ben Seastrand is the applicant. Do we have Mr. Seastrand here today? Or somebody on his behalf?
I think there's a James Jeffries. I don't know if he is for this item.
If not, Matt, I can just fill in.
This is James Jeffries. However, I'm not up to speed on all the details on this. Ben, I believe, is planning to attend the meeting.
Well, that's we'll just turn the time over to Larry then, if that's okay by you, Mr. Jeffries.
That'd be fantastic. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Let's go ahead and do that. Larry, this is all yours.
Okay, so this is a simple 1-lot subdivision off of a several hundred acre parcel of property, farm property. The parcel, as you can see, I guess everyone can see my screen, correct? Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
And so it's this 1 lot. It's about a 60 acre parcel or lot, I should say, right on the corner of U111 and New Bingham Highway. And the subdivision is in preparation for the construction of a large warehouse distribution facility at this location in the city. With the preliminary review or preliminary approval, the Planning Commission will ready this for final subdivision plat preparation that will receive administrative approval, and you will also be accepting the dedication of Oker Pass Drive, which will be a dedicated public street to the city. And with that, staff recommends approval of this subdivision, subject to all the conditions of approval in the staff report and the outstanding red lines that are on the preliminary plot. Do you have any questions for me?
Thank you. Any questions for staff? Can't tell. Let me just scroll to the next page here. No? Anyone okay?
I have a question for you, Larry, if this
Yeah.
is Commissioner Hatch. So this is just one structure, is that correct? One warehouse?
Yeah, one great big 200,000 square foot building. So
And we do not know who the occupant will be. It's a secret.
we do know who the occupant will be, but as staff, I'm under a non-disclosure agreement. So.
Got it. Okay, thank you very much.
So I've got a question, Larry, maybe following up on that. We've got a large parcel and they want to leave it as one lot, even though there's will be a publicly dedicated road over the middle of it.
Mhm.
It just seems odd to me. Is this standard or is this something where it's really more feasible to have a lot 1 and a lot 2?
It really is standard procedure, particularly on these larger pieces of property. There'll be several hundred acres left over. And the same group that is doing this development is also working with the property owner to plan the rest of the property. And so I would imagine in the next few months, you'll be seeing several subdivision plots for the rest of the remainder parcel. So, but this is not an unusual way to do it. Do one lot and then have a large remainder parcel. So.
It has no bearing on this particular one, more of a curiosity. Do we know which of those two halves the building is going to be placed on?
It'll be on lot 1 right here. So it'll be right down the center of this lot right here. And then there'll be staging and parking around the building. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else for staff? Okay, we'll go ahead and open this up as our first public hearing. If you're here to speak on this item, please feel free to, give us a wave. All right, seeing none, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing on this item, bring this back to the Planning Commission for any further discussion or possible motion.
I just wanted to, did everybody get the email from Julie with the citizen comment?
Is this the one we had the comment on? My emails are all out of order here.
It was a voice message left by Kristen Broomfield on 6/15. She lives in the Echo Ridge subdivision and just asked that we consider this and her neighborhood when reviewing the item. I guess I do have a question for Larry. Where is this Echo Ridge subdivision? It wasn't in any of the paperwork that I could find.
So I don't have it on here, but see these water tanks up here in the corner? If you go directly east there, it's about right here. So it's kind of the one residential subdivision that's right off of New Bingham Highway, probably about a half a mile or a mile east of this. So it kind of runs north to south. So,
Larry, correct me if I'm wrong on this. My recollection is maybe a couple of months ago, we talked about removing it was a city open space through this area that ended at a park, and there were several people that came in and talked about that, and they were concerned that the park would also go away. But that was the Echo Ridge subdivision that was being represented as.
Yeah, no, I'll pull it up right here if you, so we can all understand what we're talking about here. So if you look, and you can see this screen now, correct? So here's
No.
it.
We're still seeing the PowerPoint.
What about now?
We're getting there. Yeah.
Okay, so this is the Echo Ridge subdivision right here. And so this building will be going roughly in this portion of the city. And it hasn't been changed yet, Ammon, on the future land use map. You see, this is what was removed, this wash running through this industrial property. And it ends in a park or a future park right here. And actually, I just reviewed plans for a park right here, right directly east of the water tanks today. I don't know when that park will be built, but there are plans out there that CIP or Capital Improvements is working on to build a park at least at this location. So this future park, this about 17 or 18 acre future park, has not been removed from the land use map. So there's no plan to remove that from the land use map. So whatever planning is done around this whole area will have to consider this park in their planning.
So to the question or the citizen comment that came in through that voicemail, my understanding is, just taking a look at the area, this has always been zoned as it is. There was really, from a city perspective, we weren't looking at residential going into that area. For a realtor to suggest that there would be homes in that location is completely,
yeah. There's
that's how I understood the citizen comment.
Any of the residential will be north of New Bingham Highway. There won't be any additional, and that's without some major changes. So.
Maybe just one other question. I was hoping that the applicant would be here because I was curious. Larry, you'll be great with this too. We talk about where is it in here? It mentions a traffic impact study. It says the applicant will be installing safety features on New Bingham Highway as described in the traffic impact study. Could you address what those are and maybe just a little bit about that traffic impact? What are we looking at?
Nate, I think, is in the meeting. He could probably better answer that than me, but if he can't, I'll be happy to do it. So.
Can you guys hear me okay? This is Nate.
Yeah.
There was a traffic impact study. It mainly just calls for intersection improvements at that road that'll be dedicated to the city, turn lanes, and so forth. But I don't believe we're looking at any kind of a traffic light there at this point. So it's just basically features that aid in the safe turning of traffic.
All right, thanks. That sounds good to me. Appreciate the time and effort the staff had to look through all of that. I know those get pretty hectic sometimes.
All right, guys, any other questions or possible motion here? Commissioner England?
Might just have a motion unless anybody has anything else.
I think you're probably okay. Go for it.
Based on the information and findings set forth in the staff report and upon the evidence and explanations received today, I move that the Planning Commission approve this application with the following 3 conditions. And I don't think I'm going to read those conditions because I've never seen that in our motions.
That's just fine.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Commissioner England, seconded by Commissioner Allen, I believe, right? Did you get in there first?
One of us did. It works.
Any discussion to the motion? All right, seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, perfect. Moving right along. Next item on the agenda is a farmers market food truck event, 5952 West New Bingham Highway. Conditional use permit for farmers market. City of West Jordan is the applicant. Mr. Gardner, this is you again.
Yes, it is. So the city is desiring, I should say that liberally, to hold food truck events at Ronwood Park, and it requires a conditional use permit in the public facility zone. And if you look on the left hand of the screen, this is an outline of Ronwood Park. The food truck event will be going right in front of the splash pad of the city, and you can see that our events department drew up this map where the food trucks will be facing. Their windows will be facing either north, south, or east. Staff has found that this is well buffered from any residential area and that it shouldn't cause any impacts to the area at all, and recommends approval with the conditions of approval in the staff report.
All right, any questions for staff?
I have a question, Chair.
Go for it.
I'm COVID focused here, coronavirus focused. How does our current situation impact the feasibility of bringing people together like this to share food?
The event staff will be following all Salt Lake County health rules gathering. There'll be social distancing implemented. Face masks will be worn, so people won't be crowding around the food trucks in a big mass of people. They'll be maintaining 6 feet and wearing masks. So they'll be following all Salt Lake County health ordinances and rules. So.
Thank you.
Mayor, go ahead.
Thank you. I just happen to know that they also provide masks for people who show up without a mask to make sure that everyone there has a mask on. So they have been very diligent to make sure, they will be very diligent to make sure that this goes properly, with markings on the ground for people in line to keep the 6 foot distance while they're wearing the mask. And then when they go in their other locations to partake of the food, they'll be able to remove their mask once they leave the court area.
I have one quick question for Larry.
Yes, sir.
Is this permitted just because it's on public property, or is this anytime there is a food truck on any of the private property, it needs to be permitted also?
No, this is just in the public facility zone.
Okay.
It's a conditional use. Any kind of retail sales or sales in a public park requires approval of the city, but we also need to follow our own rules and get a conditional use permit. So the neighbors are notified, and whatever conditions the planning commission feels will mitigate any impacts are imposed upon this event. So the city's not causing an issue also. So.
Okay, that makes sense. I just was curious because I've seen them on private property and was curious why they weren't permitted, but that makes sense.
Yeah, private property, we don't regulate them any longer. The legislature's taken that away from us a couple of years ago. So
makes sense. Thank you.
Question. I have a question I'd like to ask.
Okay.
Are they paying a permit fee or anything like that, or is it just sales tax?
We can't require a business license fee on trucks unless they are their home base is West Jordan, so they do pay sales tax though. So.
I have 2 follow-up questions, please, Larry. One is with just garbage generally. What is the plan to ensure we don't get a lot of junk left?
There's receptacles placed around the area for people to throw things to, and then the city will take care of that the following day. So it's policed by the city pretty well. So.
Okay. And then the follow-up question to that is just looking at the way that everything is set up to where they're facing to the east. Maybe this is unfounded. I worry that people are going to get their food and then try to move across Ronwood Park or get too close to the road, and people are going to get I don't know, socially trapped in that area, I guess you could say. Is there a reason for this particular setup, or could we move the western red line to the east and move people toward the splash pad?
In actuality, the way this was, the application was made is the food truck event can be anywhere or farmer's market can be anywhere at Roundwood Park. It's not rigidly restricted to this one area. It can be anywhere in the park. So if they find that there's safety issues, event staff can move it to areas that are more safe. So
Yeah, I really like the idea with as many parking spots and space as we have there, rather than keep all the food trucks together right here. If we can move them around in this area so that the lines don't get mixed up and we keep people separated based
Okay.
on the trucks. I think it would also help with the trucks themselves and people showing up and saying, "Oh, which line am I in?"
Yeah.
Just a thought.
I'll certainly pass that along to the event staff as a suggestion.
Yeah, thanks.
Are we talking about your idea here, Commissioner Allen, as a condition that we want to use for approval, or just something for the planning department to consider?
I think they can just consider it. Whatever works best. They've been doing this in other parks for the last little while. I think they have a good idea of what they're doing.
Okay, that's what I wanted to confirm. That determined whether I had a comment or not. So thank you. Any other questions for staff before we move on? Okay, we'll go ahead and open the public hearing for this. Anybody here who wants to share their thoughts, please raise your hand for us. All right, seeing none, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing on this one and bring this back to the Planning Commission for any further discussion or motion, I mean.
I just wanted to make a quick comment that I think this is fantastic. They do this every Thursday around Daybreak Lake over in Daybreak, and I love it. I think it's great, and I'm glad we're capitalizing on it.
I'll go ahead and make a motion.
Please do.
Based on the information and findings set forth in the staff report and upon the evidence and explanations received today, I move that the Planning Commission report this application subject to the conditions listed on the staff report. Approve this application, excuse me.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Hatch, seconded by Commissioner England. Any discussion to the motion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we are unanimous on that. Before we just really quickly move along, I was just noticing in our participants list, I wanted to just really quickly mention to Mr. Seascan, we've completed and approved your application items. So, I mean, you're welcome to hang out. We'd love to have you here, but we've moved on past your item just as a piece of information on that one. Moving on to our next item is our text amendment to amend the 2009 City Code Plan Development Zone Section 13.
I think you skipped item 4. We need to talk about item 4 first.
Can we just do the Runwood? Oh, that's the same area. Thank you. I'm getting ahead of myself. Runwood Park rezone, the 5952 West New Bingham Highway rezone of 28.09 acres from R1 14F zone to PF zone. City of West Jordan is the applicant. Sorry, I saw Ron Wood and assumed we were this. That was the same item. Mr. Gardner, go right ahead.
So this is exactly the same piece of property, and if you've noticed on the left hand, the bottom left hand corner, it's still zoned R114. Probably was that zoning when this piece of property was purchased for Onwood Park. So what we want to do is send a recommendation to the city council to zone this piece of property public facility so it will match the rest of Brownwood Park. Very simple, just a housekeeping item. So, and staff recommends approval of this, or we're sending a positive recommendation to the city council.
I have
Thank
a
you.
question on that.
Yeah, go right ahead.
So I see two areas that are outlined by red. Okay, thank you. So the green plot to the north is already public facilities. Is that correct?
Yeah, yes, that's correct. So,
Okay,
so
so
it's
it's
just
simply-
this 30-acre piece right here in the corner that's still
Okay,
R114.
I think I was getting confused by the coloring because it was the same. So,
Okay.
okay, I'm understanding better now. Thank you.
This is just a housekeeping item, is that correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I mean, just one. Larry, what's the difference between a public facilities and a parks and open land?
The parks and open land is a land use category on the general land use map, where the public facility is actual the zone. So that's the implementation of the land use map. So
I see it. Thank you. I missed the PF in the upper.
Yep.
Got it.
Okay, anybody else? All right, we'll go ahead and open this up to the public if anybody has any comments they want to share. Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and bring this back to the Planning Commission and close the public hearing. Any further discussion or possible motion of a recommendation?
I'll make a motion.
Go right ahead.
Based on the information and findings set forth in the staff report and upon evidence and explanations received today, I move that the Planning Commission forward a positive recommendation to the City Council for this application.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Allen, seconded by Commissioner Shelton. It's kind of a tie there, so I'll choose Commissioner Shelton on this one. Any discussion to the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Now we can move on to my favorite part of the night, the text amendments, right? I was just so excited to get here. This is item number 5, text amendment to amend the 2009 City Code Plan Development Zones, section 13.5C -5C to A and B. Garages in the PC zone. This has citywide applicability. And once again, the superstar of the night is Larry Gardner.
I don't know about that. So this amendment, text amendment, comes from a suggestion from the City Council to change the wording in the PC zone. And it comes specifically because of the large master plan developments where you have very many different housing types. And so this one requirement that was made several years ago of having the garage always 5 feet in back of the front porch sometimes didn't work of design of larger houses where sometimes the garage is flush with the front of the home. And so there may even be some case in a smaller home where the garage is architecturally compatible, but it goes a little bit out in front of the front portion of the house, or at least is even with the porch. And so the City Council felt that allowing just this wording in the PC zone, unless different setbacks are approved in the master development plan, which is already verbiage from another portion of the ordinance, would allow the city to approve what the developer is showing in the master development plan. I hope that wasn't a confusing way to put it, but that's so basically what this ordinance will do will allow the developer to submit house plans in their master development plan, and the city can approve those plans rather than having to go through each house plan and make sure it's 5 feet in back of the front porch. And I think it really makes for a much more diverse design in these larger developments. So, and staff recommends approval of this. So.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for staff?
I have a question. Of course, my question always is going to regard parking.
Go right ahead.
By changing this rule, will it impact parking in front of the house in these areas?
No, it doesn't change the required parking whatsoever. And they still can't, if they're going to park in the front yard, they still have to be 22 feet from the property line. So it won't change the parking requirement whatsoever.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Commissioner Allen?
Yes. So outside of the master development plan, are there situations where I'm questioning whether we need to talk about this as a master development plan, or if we just take out the 5 foot, if we just say flush for garages. Is there still a reason to hold that back?
I'd like the flexibility of having it, the housing types approved in the master development plan, because quite frankly, this having garages in back of the front of homes was a reaction to snout houses and that type of thing that were prevalent in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s. Well, a lot of builders now build some very good product that may have a portion of the garage that is set slightly in front of the home, but is very, very architecturally nice. And that's usually some of the very larger homes that will go in. So I like the flexibility of the master development plan, because then it also requires a developer to show us what they're going to build, rather than, well, all our houses will be, the garage will be flush with the front of the house. So as staff, that makes it easier for us to review it. So
Are there times where we'd have garages going in without a master development plan?
not in a PC zone, no. No, it's a master development plan is always required in a planned community zone. And other zones, R12, R10, those type of zones, yes, garages go in, but we don't have any restrictions on how those garages are built.
So I guess on this one with the garages and PC zones, what if we rewrote this and just said something to the effect of setback shall be as approved in master development plan for garages?
Yeah.
Does that meet the same requirements?
It does. I can certainly do that if you want to pass that on to the city council, and that way I can rewrite it. So.
I'm thinking about it. I don't know if anybody else has a thought on that direction. The reason I suggest that is it's if the remainder of this paragraph really never applies in any circumstance, why have it? Does it confuse the situation?
Well, no, because they could just show all houses in the planned community zone with garages 5 feet in back of the home. Do you understand what I'm saying? So what this allows is I guess we could just write it and say setbacks are as approved in the master development plan. Looks like Duncan has a comment, so he may be able to.
Yeah, the advantage to it being worded the way it is here is it gives you a default, so that if it's not something that comes up as an issue, because you don't want to have the risk that there's nothing in the plan at all and there's no standard. This allows for a standard if there's not something specifically in the plan. It also allows for negotiation, between the developer and the council. So that's the advantage to leaving the language the way it currently is.
I like it. So it sets our default. This is our baseline. Bring something else if you want something else. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay. Any other comments or questions?
I have a comment, not about this, but just in general about communities. Do all communities in West Jordan require garages?
Yeah, so all new residential requires a 2-car garage. So.
And then that leads into my next question on affordable housing. That obviously increases the cost of a home. Do we have anything in place if the builder wants to build affordable housing? or create housing that is geared to the first-time home buyer that maybe has just a single car garage, or do they, regardless, they all have to have a 2-car garage?
And that's current. We have discussed that as an option. So yes, it is being discussed, Trish. So
Okay.
currently we require 2-car garage. So
I think we have to, I mean, as land prices increase and wages don't as much, I think we need to really be aware that we have to create space for people to afford a home. And if a garage is prohibitive, then maybe we limit it to 1. I think there needs to be parking. Obviously, that needs to be taken care of. And having a covered parking or garage parking is obviously preferred. I mean, even from a homeowner, but if it prohibits you from owning a home, then I think that's a factor we need to be aware of.
yeah, and in these planned communities, there is a requirement for 5% of it to be moderate income housing. And as we discuss the Jones Ranch master plan, that is something that is being brought up, to try to disperse the moderate income housing around the development and not displace it all in one area. And one of the items is there a way that we can leave off a garage to bring the cost of the house down so it's affordable for someone in that moderate income range? So it's being discussed, and I think that was comes also from some suggestions from the legislature to lower the cost of housing. So well, it's not really germane to what we're talking about here. It is being discussed. So
just following up on what she just said, though, Larry, would this be something that we'd have to come back and re-amend this specific text amendment, or is it something that would just be included in the new affordable housing plan, and we could just provide it as an exception to this rule within that new code?
Yeah, I wish I could answer that, but I don't know. It's the best answer I can give you right now. So Duncan, do you have any comment what you think? I don't know at this point. If we have to amend it, then we'll amend it. So that's.
I'd just echo what you said, Larry. I don't have anything to add to that.
Okay, that was very enlightening. Just kidding. Anything else? Okay, we'll go ahead and open this up to the public. If there's anybody here that wants to comment on this item, please go ahead and raise your hand for us now. Okay, let my finger out the button. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing, bring this back to the Planning Commission for further discussion or a motion.
I'd like to make a motion.
Please do.
I move that the Planning Commission forward a positive recommendation to the City Council for this application.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Shelton, seconded by Commissioner England. Any discussion to this motion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we are unanimous on this one. And this brings us to our last item, which just requires a motion to continue. Do we need to have a public hearing on this one? I forget. Or can we wait and do the public hearing on the next, when we reconvene on it?
You can just have it later when you reconvene.
Okay, perfect. Just you want to make a motion?
I'll just make a motion to continue item number 6, text amendment, which is amending the 2009 City Code section 13.814, storage of commercial vehicles in residential zone, to July 21st meeting.
I'll second.
Thank you. We have a motion by Commissioner England, seconded by Commissioner Allen. Any discussion to the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, and that brings us to the conclusion of our meeting tonight. Unless anybody has anything else, then we can entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion that we adjourn.
Okay, we are adjourned until the 21st. Have a good couple of weeks, guys.
You guys
Yeah.
were great.
Bye.
Have a good weekend.
Thank you.
Week start. Trish, do you want me to come over?
Yes. I mean, what's your phone number? I mean, how can we connect?
Let me give you my phone number and just text me your address. I'll come over. It's
Okay.
801
Mhm.
440 7035.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Mayor.
Thank you. See you in a few minutes. Bye.